This type of situation. My wife had an emotional affair several years ago. I believe she is doing the same thing again, and hopefully it hasn't gone any farther. She seems to be following the script that seems to guide so many cheaters when confronted with evidence. Phone is attached to her all the time, more adventurous grooming, working longer hours, more girls' nights out. This has been going on for around 3 months. However, unlike the last time, this time I was quick to get off my bottom and become very proactive. A very brief history. I met my wife in high school, where she was a year behind me. We started dating at the end of my senior year and dated around 2 years. We had a great time and loved each other very much. What did strike me as odd was that she would always shut down after an argument and would not talk to me for several days. We broke up after 2 years when after an argument she decided to sleep with the dude who going to give me a ride to college. Did not know anything till the guy asked when I broke up with my girl and that he had slept with her several days earlier. Yep, I was dumbstruck. Called her and she confessed. Why did she do this? She stated that she was young and wanted to see other people. Would have been nice to tell me though. Anyway, went to college, paid too much money and got a degree. Back at home and ran into her at a rugby match I was playing in. Started talking and married 3 years later. My wife started a new job as a social worker. She was constantly on call, so her hours were constantly changing. About 3 to 4 months ago she started acting like she did when she had a shorty with a neighbor who lived several houses away. They both played on a co-ed soccer team that practiced after work and played on the weekends. She was spending less time at home and like a fool I just hung waiting for her to come home. Checked her phone when she was asleep and found the texts. I confronted her and she apologized and broke off all communication. Yep, she has started up again with the same guy. He is a butcher, so I will just call him Meathead. I have been watching and gathering evidence for the past 2 months. The rest will be a primer since I have to get back on the road and this internet are sketchy at best. When I get to my next town, I will fill in the rest of the story regarding the unfortunate streak she was having with Mr. Meathead. The Primal Scream tour is just that. My hobby is adventure riding with a couple of my best motorcycle friends. I am currently in Dawson Creek, Alaska, riding to Dead Horse, Alaska, in the Arctic Ocean. I am eating dinner at one of the few restaurants with internet, and I believe I am overstating my welcome. The primal screaming happens when riding and my mind gets full of her BS and meanness that I have to stop, take off my helmet and scream at the top of my lungs, and I do it till I can't do it anymore. So needless to say, I have no voice, but I don't care. It seems to help and my buddies have gotten used to it, sometimes. But I think the tourists might think I am possessed. Update. Well, make it to Anchorage after several days and around 13 miles. Before I get to my wife, anyone who ever have wanted to travel in Alaska, I highly recommend it. Beautiful scenery and plenty of wildlife. The Dalton Highway is one of 2 roads in North America that crosses the Arctic Circle. It is the one used in the show ice road truckers, and when dry and the road turns to dirt, the dust from the truckers is so bad that you have to stop and let the dust settle. When wet, the chemical calcium chloride is sprayed to keep the dust down, makes the road very slippery, kind of like riding on chicken fat. One of my buddies fell because of this and dislocated his shoulder blade and broke 2 ribs, according to the Anchorage doctor. We put his shoulder into place, thanks rugby, taped his ribs, gave him a shot of Jack Daniels, and off we went. This trip and these guys have been my lifeline to reality over the weeks, and if it wasn't for them, I don't know where I would be. Never underestimate power of friendship. Anyway, back to my cheating wife. Let me start where I noticed her changing in our relationship. We have been married under 10 years with no kids. We talked about kids and were excited about the future idea of children, but she wanted to wait till her education was completed and she had time at work to take advantage of the hospital's pre- and postnatal care benefits. Anyway, after some time working, she signed up for the hospital's soccer team. They are an intramural team which plays in the city's league. I always thought it was for singles to meet, but it appears that married people are involved to meet singles or other married men. My wife met this neighbor during one of their after-game booze parties. I used to go to all her games when I could, but now she just says she will be late and not tell me she has a game, so I never know when they play. Her schedule is sent out via email, which I am not privy to. Anyway, she started to get really moody and confrontational anytime I talked to her. She says I am never home. By the way, she has always been gone over 10 hours a day from the commute and work. She has done this from day one of her job. I never had any suspicion to think anything was up. She also started to be attached to her phone all day and night, short conversations when someone calls her, texts all night long, saying she is working more overtime hours while her paychecks remain the same. Strange, right? She is staying over at her girlfriend's house every Friday night. Says she goes out after work and crashes at the GF's house. In the beginning I checked up on this and found that she was indeed at her house after a night of drinking. So, all is good, I thought. She crawled in one Saturday morning all zombie looking and states the sorry, love you lots but not in love BS. Okay, fine. Like I said, I have seen this attitude and nonverbal cues before, so I thought she was doing something again. So, a little bit about me. I currently work in law enforcement and am assigned to a violent offender task force in my city. I have been on this assignment for most of my career. It does have a lot of non-scheduled work hours, but I have always communicated with my wife on how she feels about this work schedule, and she has always stated that she was excited for me and had no issues. I found out about the affair really by dumb luck. My work car died one day, so I took my wife's POV to a conference I had to attend. Well, I forgot my briefcase in the car when my wife took it to work. In a conversation she had between herself and someone else about meeting for dinner at the usual time, and what she will not be wearing under her dress was recorded on my work voice-activated recorder located in my bag. I was at my desk and wanted to review my notes from the conference I recorded, and I heard her conversation. Well, it didn't really surprise me, but it was totally annihilating. I had my partner listen to the tape, and all he said was, "Get a lawyer now." I also told several of my good friends regarding my wife's affair, and one mentioned the Alaska motorcycle trip they were taking in a week and said that I was going with them. No questions, no complaining. So, this is how I am now, riding in the rain and mud up in Alaska with 3 of the best people I know. I told my wife I was leaving on this trip. I have lots of annual and medical leave I need to burn, so no time issues for me, and if she needs to get a hold of me, to call my best friend Jerry. Jerry is also one of the best young attorneys in my city. My wife does not know this yet, because I am going to get my ducks in a row before dropping the divorce bomb on her. I have only had to stop a scream at the pain only 4 to 5 times per day. I really helped me clear me head, and now my butt is scream with me. I guess everyone has a scream in them now and then. So now I am on the final leg of the trip and facing the unknown at home. I don't know where to start, so any ideas would be a great help. I know of no contact, which I am doing now, but I am not home and I don't know how I am going to handle it. The trip kept my mind focused, but it is starting to unravel into constant thinking about my marriage, how I truly love my wife, but I cannot condone her behavior and I can't live with the thought of her. I will talk to my friend, attorney, when I get home and take the leash off and file a SAP. What will she try to do or say to change my mind about the divorce if she wants to reconcile, or what do I do if she wants to cut bait and end it all? This is what is consuming my thoughts now. What a crap show, and I am the main attraction. Yay for me. The update. After 52 miles on a motorcycle, I am safely in my hometown at my friend's house. My wife thinks I will be home in a couple of days, so I am getting ready for possible war with the confrontation, denial, trickle truth, crying, et. Oh, I am getting this from reading all the other unfortunate posters on here that have opened up to complete strangers to help with the darkest times in your life, where she might say it is all over and you need to leave. It is the spectrum of what could and can happen that is driving me nuts. I have not been able to do any investigation regarding if the affair is still active or completely done. The closer my ride got to my hometown, the higher my anxiety level grew, to a point that I was getting physically sick and showing signs of depression. The real reason my friends basically kidnapped me for this ride is because they have been through it themselves, some of them numerous times. So, this ride was not only fun, but also therapeutic. Unfortunately, what I was getting from them was how bitter they still were even after numerous years since their divorce. They always talked me out of calling her and telling her that I know she is still seeing the meat dude. They were good listeners, but not so much the Dear Abby I needed. So that is why I am continuing on this site. I need people who can see the big picture. I picked up on her diversion sooner than the first one, but this is the last straw. I am done. So, my best friend is also my attorney. He was voted last year as one of the top attorneys in the West Coast. He is also a divorce attorney, and he is mine. He read over the texts and said they were pretty damning, but I need more information. This where I am extremely lucky. The team I work with conduct investigations, surveillance, interviews, and arrests. On my last day before my trip, we were all having lunch and I told them everything. We have worked years together and they will die for me and I will die for them. They are closer than my family. After, they all said that they would love to help capture her in the act. I only agreed if they did it on their personal time and didn't use agency resources. No problem. So today they all came over to my friend's house and we went over what they did. I have to say, if these guys were hunting my down for doing something illegal, I would be scared to death. After several days of surveillance, they did indeed catch her cheating on me. Apparently, my wife and me would meet every Thursday night at an Italian restaurant in another close by town and have date night. Something we used to do all the time but stopped several months ago when she lost interest. Not only did they have pictures and video but audio as well. I have to say, I never have so humiliated, sad and despondent until I saw and heard what they said. They were talking about their future, children, houses, all the while just bashing the he out of me. Why would a person who you thought loved you can say such hurtful things about you? I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience looking at my best friends' faces as if they were in a kaleidoscope. It was fighting, and I never really get frightened. So, this is where I am now. I have texts, pictures, and video with audio. My attorney now says, now we're working with oil. I don't know what this means. He may be smart, but he really is a dweeb. So, I think that I will go home and act like everything is good to try to get a reading on her. I don't know how long this will last, but I don't know a good starting point to all this, if you know what I mean. Some things in my favor. 1. House is mine and was mine before the marriage. 2. A vested interest in a uniform store that now has several locations. 3. Strong friend and family base. 4. A good job that pays pretty well. Things not in my favor. 1. A cheating, vindictive, soulless bones from the master wife. I arrived in my hometown several days ago and have been holding up at my friend Jerry's house. My wife still believes I will arrive home this Friday. Before I left, I told her to call Jerry if she needed anything because we both have satellite phones. According to Jerry, she has called him on average 2 to 4 times a day. We agreed he could monitor these calls and let me know if anywhere an emergency. Apparently, he did not think anything she said was that important because he did not call once. Great friend. A little about my writing partners. Of the 3, 2 are divorced and 1 never married. I thought they would give me great advice, but all they were are bitter divorced men still pissed off with their ex-wives. Perfect. In fact, I tried my hardest to not talk about my cheating wife because it always led back to their marriage war stories. So, I am back to rely on the wisdom of this collective with my absolute gut shot of a situation. So on to the update. I arrived at Jerry's house and he filled me in on what is going on. He is also friends with most of my work friends on my team. He filled me in on all the wife's calls and how he thinks she is fishing for some information. He could not get anything cheating-wise out of her. So, the following morning the rest of my team members show up and we all go out to breakfast. FYI, while I was gone, they took it upon themselves to surveil the comings and goings of my wife on their time off. This is what they filled me in on. Every night while I was gone, my wife would trollop, possibly skipping, off to the neighbor's house to spend the night, which I could only presume was to read Bible passages. They also followed her on the weekends where my wife and Meatman would travel to other towns and act like a real cuddly married couple. Also, when my wife would say she was going out every Friday with co-workers or girlfriends, she would actually meet the boss at an Italian restaurant where they would have a nice romantic dinner. This happened every Friday night I was away. By this time, I was not sad or really that mad at the information they were giving me. Because one thing this long ride did do for me is to think about everything in my marriage. I won't go into much detail because with so many random thoughts going through my head over a 43-mile motorcycle ride, if I wrote them all down you would have me committed. But with all the superfluous crazy thinking set aside, I came to a clarifying thought. And it is, I cannot control my wife's actions and she have free will to do what she wants. I am not her parent nor her prison guard. So, if my wife is seeking something from someone else and not me, especially bonding, then she has let another man step between myself and her and this is not acceptable. She is selfish, manipulative and mean-spirited. And a cheater. I use this as almost a mantra over all those miles, occasionally stopping and screaming what a bee she is. So, when I got to Jerry's, I guess my mind was made up and I was somewhat calm. I still had visceral angry feelings periodically, but they cooled over the weeks. So now I am going down the divorce route or as being married to my bones of the master wife enough. Anyway, Jerry has agreed to take me on as a client. I didn't hire him before the ride so there would not be a conflict of interest if she called him while I was riding. Now Jerry is one of the top mediation attorneys in my area and he is really good. So, he keeps telling me. So, the plan is to move back home and pretend everything is fine and wait till the paperwork is filed and she can be served. This is what I have going for me. 1. I bought and paid for my house before marriage, so it is mine outright. 2. I have interest in a professional uniform chain, but I deferred all profit sharing until I want to take it. 3. I own all our vehicles and are in my name. 4. I have a blossoming retirement portfolio which she will get a chunk. So, I am asking for help regarding any suggestions on how to deal with my wife before she is served and how do I keep my sanity as my emotions go up and down over these next months and most likely for years. I am just waiting to hear the excuses. In fact, we all should have a contest on which excuse she will drop first. I am thinking you never paid attention to me, which would be extremely ironic. It really doesn't matter though, does it? An excuse is an excuse. She can say any one of the popular excuses found on this forum. She will use any excuse that will stick, one that will make her look good and me like Charles Manson's torture guru. She knows what she wants to do and that is to canoodle with the meat guy. So, what she tells me is just BS anyway. I have never been divorced and I am finding there are pitfalls and obstacles and the unknown waiting for me, so any ammunition would be helpful. I will listen to my attorney, but he is not with me 24 hours a day. It is the times when I am alone and thinking about everything that can or will happen that gets my mind spinning. In my work I have seen some pretty terrible people, but some don't compare to how some of these spouses try to hurt, humiliate and throw away hurting husbands and wives without a concern in the world. Pathetic. Anyway, I went home to today, 2 days earlier than she expected, and I have to admit she looked a little perplexed. So, walk through the door and I try to act like all is copacetic with our marriage. Expecting a kiss and hug after so many weeks, I got a deer in the headlight look from her. No kiss, no hug, just asking why I am home early. She says, I have Thursday and Friday night already booked with friends because I thought you would be home on Saturday. Nope baby, Daddy's home. So, I go and unpack and take a shower so she would have time to call her piece of crap, which she did. How do I know she called? Because I read all the comments to record all conversations. I have to tell a secret. Before I left, I placed recorders throughout the house, with each device recording up to 50 to 60 hours before being full. Now in my state, you need two-person consent. I will use these recordings as a foundation for the divorce, but if it goes to court, I will destroy the tapes. So, I pulled the recorder from the bedroom and heard all the conversation. And it goes like this: W equal wife. O equal other man. W, guess who came home tonight? Oh, you're kidding. W, nope, he came home early so I don't know how we can keep our appointments. Oh, we still can but we just have to be careful. W, I am worried because he is very observant, is good in getting people to confess in interviews. Oh, I'm not worried. The way you talk about him, he is clueless when it comes to you. W, you're right, let's just keep our dates and I can just fool him. Oh, I love you, baby. Soon we will be together to live the life we both want. W, I love you too. I can't wait to get away from him, he just doesn't pay attention to me. So, this was fun to listen to. And to be honest, this interaction did not really surprise me. It made me hate this woman to the core of her existence, and then some. But when I listened to around 25% of the recordings, I have so much information against her that I don't need anymore. It seems that she has been cheating with this guy on different levels for the past several months, but really kept it underground. I think their feelings grew over time where they have become more reveling in their openness, but still going to other towns to show how brave they are. So, after listening for a little bit and taking a shower, I hear her rattling the pots and pans in an attempt to make dinner. My wife may have some qualities, but her cooking was never nor will it ever be one of them. Now, I have always ate what she cooked and said how wonderful it was, but some food I could not even recognize. In addition, her saying I have not or never paid attention is total horse crap. I have doted on her since we have been married, paid for her school and helped her study for exams and proofread her papers. I have established a great relationships with her family and play golf with her father and brothers 2 to 3 times per month. I feel I have done everything I could with her and her family and friends. But it doesn't matter, she wants to leave so she will come up with any excuse as long as it sticks to the wall. So, eating dinner was the both of us staring at each other like prize fighters before a fight. She was talking away about what she did over the past several weeks, and I just did not care. So, I will play the game of holding my emotions back, waiting for Jerry to file so she can be served this Friday. I don't know when it is going to go down, but it is going down. The only question that is unanswerable one of what she is going to do once served. Something to look forward to, I guess. She always hits the speaker on her phone so she can walk around doing things. She always has done this. Usually I tell her to turn it down, but not this time. I get home from running errands around 6 and she is upstairs taking a shower. She told me earlier that she had plans with her girlfriends tonight and on Friday. So, holding true to my need to keep calm and show any anger, I said great and I hope you have a great time. I have to ask, has anyone just wanted to slap your WS as hard as you can? This goes for men and women. I just want to strike out, but I know I need to hold firm. It's a sick type of torture. So, I am sitting in my favorite chair, drinking a beer and watching a baseball game, when my wife comes down in a short, tight dress with tall heels. I looked at her and almost exploded, but I didn't. I asked her if her dress was appropriate for the movies. She stated that she just wanted to look pretty. Yes, she looked pretty, you know, for a street worker. So, I just continued to ask her uncomfortable questions, such as, what movie are you going to see? Maybe Chuck, husband of one of the friends she states she is going to the movie with, and I can meet you after the movie for drinks. Every question was answered with it's just a girl's night out. Now I know she is not going out with Chuck's wife because Chuck and I played golf today, then he and his wife are going to her mother's for dinner. I told him to keep all this private and he said no problem. Like all the people I have told, all without exception said that they are not surprised. They all know my wife and seem to see right through her BS, but apparently not me. Blinded by love, I guess. Anyway, before she left, she yells to me to not wait up for her. She will be really late or stay at a friend's house. No problem, I said, and off she went. Knowing what she is probably going to do, I just broke down and cried for the first time in probably 10 years. How some person can devastate another with a wink of an eye is like dealing with the devil. Not being able to stay in the house anymore, I got on my bike and took a long ride. I must have ridden for 4 hours, and on the way back home, I went down the alley behind the butcher's house. Looking between the fence, I could see both of them in the kitchen doing something. I guess the movie was not very good. Rode to the street and called Jay. I told him what is happening at home and he just jumped in, calling her all sorts of names. Great friend. Anyway, he said that the divorce paperwork will be ready on Friday at Tina, so she can be served any time after. So, I rode home and prepared how to serve the WS and start a new life. The VAR is not some government special spy stuff, and she never spoke to the pos butcher while I was around. It was usually her family, work, or girlfriends. However, since I was gone, apparently, she did have to hit anything. The VAR did not pick up on everything. There was some conversation where she talked on her phone, and other times she was in a room where the VAR could only pick up little bits and pieces. However, I was able to hear enough to know she was mesmerized by all the attention. The paperwork has been filed and I had her served tonight. I just have to add that I looked over our bills and saw nothing that jumped out at me. However, when reviewing my American Express card, I saw that she was spending my money on this garbage. And this has been going on for over 5 months. I have always let her use it in emergency cases, but now she uses it to carry on her affair. She has always taken care of our finances and we always go over the bills before she pays them. However, she never brings up the credit card and must pay it every month. I never thought about the card because I hardly ever use it. So, this put me into an extremely hateful, volatile mood. Now being in law enforcement, you are trained to deal with difficult people and how to keep cool and use verbal judo, a term when trying to calm irate citizens. So, I went for a long run and ran till I puked. Sounds gross, but it really calmed me down for what was going to happen later on that day. This is how the service went down. I was just going to have my partner serve her at work, but after what I found out in the morning, there was no way I was going to this. So, I took a chance to see if she and Roger Ramjet would keep their Friday date night. I know she was going out because I called her when she got home and stated that she was still going out with her girlfriends for shopping and dinner. So, we waited. We had several cars parked around the parking lot chock points so we would not miss them. Around 7:30 she shows up to the restaurant driving my sports car. What the hell? I wanted this car since I was 10 and kept this dream alive till I was lucky enough to buy it. Seeing her drive it to meet her affair partner was too much to handle. I wanted to run and tell her what a bee she is, but my partner grabbed me by the arm and told me to settle down. He reminded me why we are there and her days are numbered. Good friend. So about 15 minutes later, the piece of crap arrives in a really nice car, so it appears he can afford a nice car but can't pay his commitments to his kid. Anyway, after about 10 minutes, one of the guys my wife doesn't know goes in and sits in the bar. He texts that they are together and at a table overlooking the water. How romantic. He waits to text until their bill arrives at their table, and that is when her life starts to change forever. I go in with my partner who is going to serve her and we approach their table. The restaurant has a very dark atmosphere, so walking to their table unnoticed was not very hard. We arrive at the table and I sit down next to my wife and my partner next to the butcher. If you have ever seen anyone truly shocked, you need to up it tenfold. My wife just stares at me in disbelief until clarity finally seeped into her brain. Like the water spit takes they do in the movies, this was done with a mouthful of vanilla ice cream with fudge sauce. The conversation went like this. W, what are you doing here? Me, are you going to finish your ice cream? Which I took off her plate and started eating. I was starving. W, actually, she was so shocked she just moved her lips like a fish with no words coming out. Me, so I have been following your cheating with this garbage and I am here to tell you it is over. W, I will break it off, it didn't mean anything. Me turning to the butcher, so, how does that make you feel? I bet she said she loved you, she did, and wanted to spend the rest of her life with you. And now she is throwing you under the bus. Butcher, look, can't we talk about this man to man? Me looking him straight into his eyes, I would, but you are no man. A man would not go poaching after married women and break up families. You are nothing to me, so keep your mouth shut. Now my wife, seeing her demise, looks at my partner as he hands her the divorce paperwork. She asks what it is and I say divorce papers. But then she did something surprising to me. She composed herself and started to support the OM, hitting me again with not supporting her and paying her enough attention. I stayed focused and I laid into her, mentioning how much I have done for her. She stated that she is confused and doesn't know what to do. I said, well, that is something you have to choose. She throws out that she can't do anything now until her head is clear. I said, no problem, but there are things you need to send to the court in a couple of weeks. So where is Meathead? He shot out of his seat and headed towards the door. I said, well, your ride is leaving, so she got up to leave. I mentioned to her that she forgot to pay for his dinner, then said to forget about it since I have been paying for their dinners here for several months. She stammered a bit but was still getting up to leave. So, I left her a parting shot of, you know, I am only a bank for you anyway, a direct quote from the last time their conversation was recorded. She could not have looked more surprised than if she had the winning Powerball ticket. So, she leaves and we follow, knowing they are not going anywhere fast. We arrive at where he parked and somehow a car broke down right behind his car, blocking him in. The butcher was in his car sulking down in his seat while my wife was trying to get him to unlock the car so she can squirm in. Before she could close the door, I caught it and held it open to talk to her. I leaned in and told her that she needs to leave the house and go stay with this piece of crap or at the Y or in an alley. I didn't care, but she was not staying at my house. She just looked at me and grunted fine, in one of those I lost the argument but I am going to get the last word kind of fine. She yelled at me that she would come by and get her things, and I told her that all her stuff was in the garage. I am sure she felt some vindication by telling me to FO. Nice, but they still could not leave. Given I had her full attention, I also mentioned that he has 2 kids by other women and he is really late on child support for one of his kids. She just stared at me knowing I was telling the truth, but she was pissed and would not give me the satisfaction of showing I had something on him. I went over to the driver's side and told the butcher that I will be watching his every move, and he will never know when I may appear in his life again. He actually said yes sir to me. I looked at my wife and she gave me another FO. Nice. So, I asked the guy whose car blocked the butcher's car and asked him if he ever tried using a key to start the car. In a feigned expression, my teammate stated that he was a fool, got in his car, started it up, and drove away. As the butcher put his car in gear, I looked at him and mentioned, "You never know when your life will change." And off they drove. The only positive was that I was able to drive my sports car home. So, I have not heard from my wife, and I don't know if or when I will. What has got me contemplating is what is she going to do next? So, I am asking those who have been through this, what am I going to face and how to prepare for the unexpected? My comment: expect her to get really nasty and desperate. Keep away from her as best you can and record every interaction or have witnesses present. 1. Keep a VAR on you at all times, or your camera thing that police wear. 2. Go by what your lawyer tells you. 3. Did you inform everyone as to what you were doing? Let them know. 4. Keep your temper. 5. Change the locks. 6. Stay strong. See you guys in the part 2 ending.